Hello and welcome to In Conversation with the Doctoral College. I'm Dr. Deborah Cureton and I'm the Research Development Manager at the University of Wolverhampton.
And I'm Dr. Ben Halligan, I'm Director of the Doctoral College.
In this blog we're going to talk about your presence as a researcher, having an online presence and why it's important. So Ben, this is an area that you're an expert in. You're much more advanced than most of us in this area because you've got your own website and you've got a Twitter account and you blog as the Director of the Doctoral College. So could you tell us a little bit about why this is important, why you think as a researcher it is important to have an online presence?
I think a lot of researchers, people doing their PhDs, professional doctorates, can be somewhat invisible and you don't know who they are. If you're looking into a university from the outside, there's almost no way of finding out who these people are. And I think that if you're engaged in research, you need a bit of a shop window. You need to say to the world, this is who I am, and this is what I'm doing, and I'm available in the following ways. And we have a lot of ability now to do that quite quickly. And I think most universities will allow someone doing a PhD to have a website, to have a photo, contact information that's crucial, whatever research they're up to, maybe some publications or stuff that's been developed or conferences they've spoken at or a link to their Twitter feed, and this is their formal ID. I find sometimes people doing doctorates who are out in the field doing field research really need this, because if they've asked somebody, can I interview you for the research I'm doing, that person might Google the doctoral student and they need to find a hit, which is the university's official page. Here's one of our doctoral researchers. So it's a very important validation of who you are and what you're doing.
So in terms of having a presence on the university website, we now have the CRIS, which is a research information system. We have got a blog about the CRIS, so do check out that vlog. It should be somewhere on our channel, so have a look at the Doctoral College's YouTube channel. But that's really important to populate your CRIS profile, because that's going to make up your outward going profile on the university website at some point, isn't it?
Once it's populated though, it can be a bit static. And I think this is a problem for all universities, that they fully populate a profile and then years pass and it looks like it's not been updated for years. But I think that with a Twitter account as well, or even with your own website, you obviously have a lot more control and it's fresher, it's updated more often. Yeah. And I think often, a PhD researcher will use WordPress or Blogspot or another package to create for free their own website to showcase who they are and what they do. And onto that they might put audio of talks at conferences they've given. If they develop teaching materials, they might include that. PowerPoints for conferences, for teaching, all those kind of things that they've got, they can put on that.
Links to papers they've written as well.
Links to papers they've written, and generally a bit about them and their experiences and where they're coming from. And I think especially the person who is perhaps nearing the end of their PhD really needs to build that up, because it will be essential in terms of life jobs beyond a PhD, and it shows outreach. It shows an ability to project who you are into the outside world, and you're not locked in an ivory tower.
Yeah. So there are a number of different ways that you can heighten your profile. One is obviously having your presence on the university website, but having a blog, having your own web page, having a Twitter account. So along with this is a responsibility to kind of manage your profile. So what sort of tips would you give people about in ensuring what they put out there or put onto their blogs, onto Twitter is useful and positive?
I think I'll give you a best case scenario and a worst case scenario.
Okay.
I think the best case is where someone has been at a conference, they've spoken at the conference or they've just attended, they have some thoughts about the conference, so they may want to quickly write those thoughts down into a blog post, which they put on their website. And it may be that, you know, you were terribly enamoured with a certain paper you heard and you want to expand on those ideas, or maybe you were, you know, frustrated and a bit critical of a certain discussion has occurred and you feel that you want to contribute to that. So you might write that up, hopefully with a photo that you might have taken as well of the speakers or the conference or whatever. Then you would link that to your Twitter account. So you'll say, here are my thoughts on the 2019 conference of the International Association of whatever. I reflect on the keynote given by Professor X, and then you can link that to Professor X. So Professor X will think, oh, hang on a minute, here's some commentary on my work, and they may like it, they may repost it. So in next to no time, through linking it to that professor, through linking it to maybe the organisation, through the university, to the relevant journals, your website is getting quite a lot of hits, and your ideas have been read, and people are thinking, well, you know, who is this person? What are they doing? We'll find out about them. We'll invite them to the next conference. They may be interested in chairing a panel, writing something for a journal, things like that. So I think that's a very positive way of creating some interest in what you've written and driving traffic back to your website in order to really, you know, showcase yourself and what you do. I said I'd give a negative example as well. And just drawing on blogs from people doing PhDs that I've looked at over the years, I see that sometimes there's quite an unfortunate mixture of personal and professional. And I can think of some people who have talked about academic matters, and then they've talked about medical matters, how they feel about various regimes of medication they're on, and they've talked about their frustrations with some students they've taught who may not have responded in an informed way, and then they've gone back to talk about their problems with their PhD advisor. And I think all of this can reflect quite negatively on the person writing the blog. And if that person was then, you know, looking for a job and was applying and people Googled that person's name, although they're not meant to be, but invariably they will, they may get a message which is, this person is a troublemaker, this person is not somebody you would necessarily want to work with, because you or your students may be the next target of their ire on a blog. Sometimes it's a matter of not self-censorship, but I think of language. You know, because we've all run undergraduate seminars that have been quite tough, and maybe it's a matter of talking about the challenges of dealing with people who are not as familiar with the material as you would like, this, that and the other, rather than saying, I can't believe I went to the seminar and not one student had read the article I gave them last week. What are they paying fees for? You know, this is not really the way of couching those things. So that's a good example, I think, and a bad example.
So there's somewhere in the middle. So, you know, I have a Twitter account. I'm somewhat enamoured by cats. Quite often cats will feature on my Twitter account. Do you think that sort of thing's okay?
You know, if you didn't, I would worry. Because if your Twitter account was merely observations on the state of education in the UK in some article you've read, I would think this is not a real person, you know. And I think you can... And I think what's really great about Twitter is that it shows that often big name academics are real people and approachable and things like that. So, yeah, definitely.
So you can have fun on Twitter without going too far. So things like, you know, at conferences, isn't there a rate my dessert, conference dessert, Twitter thread?
Is there? Okay.
Yeah. So you know, you can play along with those sort of things, but just be careful. Okay. So you've given us quite a lot of advice around blogs. Well, blogs. We haven't talked about vlogs, have we? So I mean, we're vlogging, and you know, this is a useful mechanism for some people, but not for others. So, what tips would you give to people who are brave enough to sit in front of a camera and talk?
I think there's a constituency out there. There's a worldwide constituency for some of the research that goes on.
Yeah.
So if you and your friends are conducting research in some particular area,
Yeah.
I guarantee there'll be another university somewhere in the world where there are other people doing the same and who would be dead interested in finding out your thoughts. And it's a matter of, therefore, videoing it, recording it, seeing if you can get it to identify those people, to get them to find it, and creating a kind of interesting global community in a way that 20 years ago would have almost been unthinkable.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, we had a lot of conversations about, the isolation of doing a PhD, that you were stuck in a library and it was hard to make connections, whereas now the very reverse is true. And I've said this before, but it's students that have shown us this. We've not said to students, you must use Twitter and you must vlog.
Yeah.
They have done it, and then we have come around to think about how good that is and all the kind of wonderful connections it can make.
Yeah.
So one can vlog in a way that maybe you and I are, which is like a conversation. But I think as well, interesting things can happen. If you're running a big experiment, why not get a bit of film of it? Get your friend in the lab to maybe film it as you put the final chemical in to see what's going to happen. I mean, that can be pretty interesting as well, as part of introducing, here we are, here it is, here are the results. That bit of film that you can obviously just do on your phone could then be used in a conference. It could be dumped on Twitter, it could be on your blog, it could be one of a series of 6 or 7. It could even turn up, good God, in your PhD Viva. You could present it as part of a presentation for that.
Yeah.
So the uses of pressing record at the right moment to video something, you may not even know at the point that you're doing it. But I think you have to identify these occasions, and you have to capture as much as you conceivably can.
I suppose we could point people towards a couple of our own research students who vlog. So we've got Tavashini Naidu, who's PhD Queen. We've got Alex Blower, who's Edu Detective. Both vlog about their research and their experiences, and they do that in a really positive and developmental way. So if you're thinking about it, have a look at what Alex or Tavashini does, and if you vlog as well, do let us know, because we'd like to know and we'd like to follow you. So put some comments below, let us know what you do.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you for sharing your experiences with us, Ben, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.